Hello, Blaine Gray at Plastering For Beginners, and today I'm going to show you the easiest way to skim coat a wall. I'm going to show you the 3 basic steps on how to get this wall nice and flat. Now, the big distinction is this is not to be confused with plastering. We're using a totally different product and it's a totally different method. So anyone who's used to our channel, this is going to be a bit of a refreshment because this is a totally new way to get a wall flat. But there's some discrepancies and you can't use it in every situation. So today we're going to discuss how to skim coat a wall. Is it the best product and the best thing to do for you in your situation? What we have is we've got this product called Knauf Airless Finish. This is basically a compound, but again, like I said, this isn't plastering. This is classed as level 5, which is used a lot in the States. It's also used a lot in Europe, and it's almost like a filling compound. So it's the level just before plastering. It's basically a very viscous product, and you roll it on. You can't apply it with a trowel. You can't put it on with a trowel. It won't work with that. So you can roll it, but you can also spray it. The only reason I know about this is because I went on a spray plastering course 2 years ago. Long story short, to use the machine, one, it costs a lot of money and it's only really designed for commercial use. But this product is great if you roll it on. I'm going to show you exactly what the crack is here. This is the product. As you can see, it's very gloopy. It's very gloopy. It's pre-mixed. So all the mixing's done for you. So like I said, you roll this product on. Can't trowel it. I'll leave this roller in the description below, by the way. And I'll also leave a product to the link that I'm using. But basically, all you do is simply roll it onto the wall. Now this doesn't need any primers, it doesn't need any PVA. You just go straight onto the surface you're working on. I know it sounds mad, but you literally just roll it on. As you can see, it leaves a very coarse texture. So you just get a little patch on at a time. And put it on. Now you apply a small section at a time because what you don't want it to dry. Now there's 2 ways of flattening this product. I'm going to use a flexi trowel for the first way. I'm going to show you another example with a spatula in the next part of the video. Remember, there's 2 coats, this is just the first coat. Now to get it flat, it's quite simple. We literally just bring the trowel, we literally just scrape it flat, but what we want to collect it and just flatten it as we go. So just bringing the trowel into the corner and it flattens very easily. It flattens very easily. Now that's that section done and flattened. Send you the rest of it and that is literally it. That's literally that section flattened and done. That's all you need to do for the first coat. You apply it and you flatten it. Now you just do little sections at a time because it does dry quite fast. You'll struggle to get it flat. Now if there is any little lines or any little ripples, don't worry about it at this stage because we've got another coat to put on. This is the rough coat. So we're just doing this, get it flattened as fast as possible. You just do little sections at a time. Now I'm going to roll this on. I'm going to do the same process. Again, this isn't a plaster, so you're not supposed to keep troweling it, trying to get it flat and flatter. The idea is you get it on, you roll it on, quickly give it a trowel, get rid of the most lines you can, and then you leave it. So don't touch it again. That is the first coat done. Don't go back onto it, because what you'll find, you'll peel it. So you literally just do little sections, maybe 3 square meters at a time, get them done, trowel them out, and then leave it. So don't keep touching it. Now that is the first coat done, and it dries exceptionally fast. You've got to wait for that at least 12 hours really, or until it's sandable, where it's to the point where you can sand it dry, and then you've got to put the second coat on. Now, I plastered this wall about 4 hours ago, so it's for the last video, but I've not flattened it. I've not really got it to a nice flat finish. I've left some sections. As you can see, it's quite still drying, but there's some dips. It's not perfect there. There's a few little ripples. I want to test this on a wall that's not being truly flattened, and that's so we can really get a feel for how this product works in areas where you haven't got a perfectly flat wall. The example I did here, the wall was dead flat. and it was finished nicely. But this example, it's not truly been flattened and there's a few imperfections. Let's give it a go on this and see what shows up. So I'm going to roll this section on now and see what results we get. I mean, the great thing about this product, you don't even need preparation, you can just go straight on it. I quite like that idea. A little area like that is more than enough at this time. So, get that on. Big problem you can see, you probably can see it's very thin. There's no real thickness to this once you've trialled it back. So that section at a time is quite good. I'm going to fill the rest in. And that is the first coat on. It's on the walls, it's drying already. Pretty good. Now let's have a closer look. As you can see, it's drying. You see these little marks? These little ripples. You leave them. Don't try and trial them out, especially not now. But you can see how thin the product is. You can see the first coat shining through. And it is a very thin product to be using. Well, that is the first coat done. Okay, so it's day 2. We're back at the walls, and as you can see, it's dried nicely. Now, it does dry to a matte consistency as well. It's got a nice matte finish. But there's a few things I'm going to go into before we start anything. We might have a few sections like this, where I've got a bit of a raised section there. We've got also a few little patches. Now, remember, this is just the first coat. And really, you can give it a scrape down. It does sand down very easily as well. We'll go into that later into this video. You can give it a little scrape, but to be honest, at this point, you've still got another coat to go on. But let's say, for argument's sake, say this section here, you can take your trowel or whatever you choose. And look, comes back nicely. So you can give it a quick scrape to get any high spots if you like, but really at this point it really doesn't matter. Now the second coat, I'm going to do a few things differently. I'm going to show you a few variations on how you can spread and flatten the plaster, so I'm going to go into that in a minute. But the first variation for the second coat, I like to water it down. Now I know a lot of people out there, especially people who are very prone to using level 5 compounds, like to water both coats down. I like the first coat to be quite thick so I can get a thicker first coat on. I find that the product can be very thin otherwise, especially when we're dealing with walls which have got a bit of a texture to them and maybe a few sections which are raised. But now the base coat is on, got rid of the low spots. Now I like to water the second coat down, so I'll show you that first off. Probably 10% water to the mix. So I'm just going to put a little bit in there. Literally pour it in. Then I've got my combi drill with a little mixing pad at the end. Just literally mix it in a bucket. Now, that's been mixed up and it's a little bit more runnier. It's going to be nicer to roll. It's also going to give us a bit more time, which we're going to talk about right now. So, first addition, I've got an extension pole for the roller. Why I didn't use this at the beginning, I'll never know. It's going to make your life so much easier, especially when you're dipping into the bucket and getting the mix back out. Now, I haven't got much height, so I've just gone for the small one, but really, extension poles, if you are going to be doing this day in, day out, it's going to be so much worth it. But I'm also going to show you in this half of the video using a spatula. So we're going to go into that in a second. First thing I'll say, the top coat is going to dry a lot faster because we're going to go straight on top of the first coat. There's no primer, nothing needed, but it does dry a lot faster, which means we've got to start getting it on in smaller patches. So we get smaller areas on for the top coat. Because what you don't want to be spreading it and it's drying too fast, because that means you won't get the finish, you won't be flattening it out nicely, you'll have loads of ripples to contend with. So really we want to be just doing small sections at a time and then flattening it as we go. So we're going to start in the top left corner, a little patch on at a time. Now this coat is generally going to be a lot thinner. Now that is more than enough for that section there. There's a spatula I'm using. This is a Speed Skim SF. It's a steel blade and it's great for this type of work. Let's show you the difference here. Let's tuck into the corner. And that is that section flattened off. We are going to collect a bit of excess, scoop off the excess, put it back in the bucket. That is literally how simple it is. And we don't want to have it thick at this point, so we do want to really thin it out. So when you are ruling, just make sure you're ruling to pull in a lot of pressure. You try and take the excess off, because remember the top coat is very, very thin. Now, every now and again I like to give the speed skim a bit of a wipe. What we don't want that plaster to cure on the blade, and when you come to ruling off, you've got loads of lines, loads of little bits. We need this to be clean. We can't have it scratching the top coat. Like I said, don't play with it. Once you've got it on, once you've ruled it off, leave it. It's not about getting it dead flat with this product. We're going to come back to it tomorrow. We're going to have to sand it down anyway. So you just want to make sure you flattened it as best as you could, but you can't go back to it. It dries very fast, and if you start trialing over it, it'll start pulling and tearing the plaster. And it blends very well into itself, so don't be scared of even overlapping where you've just troweled. That's fine, as long as you're putting a new product on, it doesn't matter. But just don't make sure you're coming too far in. That is another section done. Take off the excess. Make sure you're always cleaning your blade, whether it's a trowel or a spatula. Keep it clean at all times. And then follow through in the same vein. Just literally rolling it on, ruling it off, and that's it. That's that wall done. Now I went back to a trowel. I personally prefer to use a flexi trowel during the second coat. I don't mind using a spat for the first coat, but for the second coat I just feel I get a bit more control, and not only that, I feel I can put a lot more pressure behind the trowel, which means I can pull a lot more plaster off. What I like to do is roll as close to the top and sides as possible, but try and leave a bit of thickness of plaster, so we've got a little bit left over at the top or the corner, and that means when we're troweling, can pull in, take the excess and dig it into the edges. I'll try and show you that now. I'll get this little section on. So, take the flexi. As you can see, the tops haven't got anything on it. Just pull it off. Now with the excess, pull it into the top there. And then whatever you pick up from the trowel, put it back in there. And that way, we're constantly feeding the top, we're constantly getting it filled in. Because it's a roller, you won't be able to get in it all the time, so just use the excess to fill in the gaps. That's that patch done. The internal corners can also be quite tricky, but again, take your time, gently go into the corner and then pull out. Because this was a wet angle and we did this wall at the same time, you want to be very gentle and you don't want to mark this, because at this point this will tear and scrape very easily. So gently go in and then pull out. If you do have any gaps, there's a little hole here. Take the plaster, you can fill in with the excess, so you can leave a bit behind and then you can trowel it out. Don't be scared of filling any spots you missed, because you can do that. Just don't want to be troweling it when it's dry. As you can see, there is one or two little lines. Don't be tempted to trowel it, just leave them. Seriously, this isn't plastering. This isn't a point to get this wall dead flat at this point. You're going to get little ripples, you're going to get little marks, that's absolutely fine. We're going to address that tomorrow. Now that's the second coat applied. What we need to do now is we need to wait for it to dry. So it's already curing over, but we need to make it dry to the point where you can actually sand it down. That's the next stage in the process. Unlike plastering, this product is designed to be sanded and it's designed to be left with a matte finish ready for the decorators. So we, in a sense, do all the filling with level 5 compound as well. I'll show you that in tomorrow's lesson, but one thing, if you do want this product to dry a bit faster, the more airflow you can get in a room with this particular product, the faster it will dry. I'm going to leave this for the day. I'm in my garage, there's no airflow. So I'm going to play it safe. I like to leave for a day, that way it's ready for sanding. If you start on it too early, you can create issues, it's not worth doing. So I'm going to come back tomorrow, we'll talk about the last stage. Okay, now we're back for the final day. Second coat is dried, we've got a very nice matte finish. So now we're ready for the final part, and this, to be honest, is my worst part. I'm a plasterer by trade, I'm not used to sanding things down, but the thing is with this product, it does need sanding. So I'm going to go into it now, I'm going to show you the full roundabouts of it. I'm going to get you close-up views on where it should be sanding, exactly how to do it. So let's go. But for now, I'm going to show you the basics on how to do it. So I've got a sanding pad with some sandpaper on it attached to it. Now, essentially, I like to aim for 240 grit here. We don't want anything too harsh because at the end of the day, this is going to be a finished product. What you need to do is give the whole wall a quick sand over. So I'm going to get my mask on and I'm literally just going to go over it. The thing is with this product, it sands extremely well. It's a very nice product to sand down. It just leaves a lot of dust, which is a bit I hate. But on the whole, it's a very easy product to deal with. So I'm going to give it a quick run over and then I'm going to show you on this wall exactly what we're dealing with in terms of dealing with lumpier walls. And this is the stage when you'll start to see a few discrepancies. So let's go into it now. So it literally just needs a good go over with a sander. Take a mask off. There's a lot of dust, I must admit, but the way it sands down is very fine. It's easy to get any lines out. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the light set up sideward glancing. On this wall that was a bit worse than this one, had a bit of undulation, had a few bumps. So I'm going to get it side on so you can see exactly anything that's showing. I'm going to show you how to fill it and how well it does sand. I've got the light facing sidewards onto the wall. Now let's see what we can find. See this little section here? Now, without it sideward glancing, you won't tell, but there's a little detail there. You can see where the undercoat's shining through, where the wall wasn't completely straight. You've got another little bit there. So, when you are sanding, the best way is to get the light sideways onto the wall and you'll see everything. Let's have a little look at this section here and see how well it sands down. So, want a sander on it? Now that section is completely smoothed out. It really doesn't take much to sand it and it's a very easy product. So this bit here where we've got a little lump, let me zoom in on that, bit there. Now that little section has gone. It is really that easy. Grab your trowel, take a bit of the product, put it onto your trowel edge there. Now I've marked it, I've scuffed the wall a little bit. You see that? Just put it on the edge. Trowel it into nothing. Now if you keep a nice open trowel when you're troweling off, you shouldn't even have to sand it back again. So just bring it back to nothing. That is how easy it is to fill a little mark you've seen on the wall, and that way if you get it fine enough, you don't have to sand it back down again. That's it. You've got a very smooth wall. This wall's been skim coated, it's had 2 coats, and it's been sanded down. And then, if you see any discrepancies, you can get the plaster, fill in any sections you've missed, and that is it. So not only have you plastered it, you've also filled and sanded the wall down, which means for the decorating stages, all the work's been done. Now, for me, this is a lengthier process. I'm a plasterer, I much prefer just using plastering products, but this as a backup is a great way to get walls dead flat. The only problem is, if you've got a wall like this, where it wasn't perfect in the first place, because the plaster is so thin, any undulation, any marks in the wall is going to show up. So this is where this product isn't ideal in situations. For me, the wall that hasn't been perfectly flattened needs to be plastered, but that's just my opinion. But anyway, this is how you skim coat a wall. I hope you enjoyed this video. But if you want to see the full process on how to plaster a wall rather than skim a wall, click this video here and we'll show you 2 ways to apply the plaster. And we'll show you the full 7-step process to plastering a wall. And this, in my opinion, is a much better option. So click that, watch your way through and subscribe here if you haven't done before. Thanks a lot.